What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Centering Esports Podcast, episode 305, and this is going to be the best episode ever because we have a packed Yikes of the Week, a lot of Yikes to get through. Also, iBuyPower Union is officially dead in Valorant, and it's that time of year, ladies and gentlemen. Call of Duty League preview 2021 in your face. That will happen, as well as e-news to finish off the show. But before we get to any of that, let me tell you about the show sponsor in Alt Esports. Go to altesports.com and pick yourself up a number one apparel that esports has to offer. They're soft, they're comfy, they're size appropriate. You can pick yourself up a Call of Duty League swag, as they are one of the official apparel partners for the Call of Duty League. I saw some sneak previews out on Twitter the other day. Definitely am excited to see what else comes their way. You can pick up a 101 Burglars hoodie, your very own TCR 101 Burglars hoodie, as well as their brand new Reset line. So altesports.com, check them out. You won't regret it.
Hey, this is James Clayster Eubanks, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast presented by Alt. And this is going to be the best episode ever. Episode 305, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, February 8th, 2021. The time, 9/11, never forget, p.m. I think it's like 2 weeks in a row. 9/11 start. Just a fun fact for those keeping score at home. Go check us out on Twitter at The Center Ring. Join the Discord, our website, tcr.gg, all that fun stuff. My name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Tim, you know me. I always love a good opportunity to talk about iBuyPower. Another chance to pimp that out. I get so excited anytime it comes up.
It will never go away.
Never. Never.
It really won't. It will just be a stain on esports forever.
And like that means we'll get like a new video from Brax's new team explaining the whole controversy again. Like, yep. It's like it's gonna live on forever.
Well, that's the thing,
dude.
right? Yeah, because every time they, get dropped, then they'll sign with another team, and then it comes right back to play. It's like that stain on your favorite T-shirt you just can't throw away, but it's just so comfy. It feels right. Feels right to talk about it. So, gonna talk some iBuyPower again. Bring them up again. Also, Nuge, you want to know how serious I am about this CDL preview?
How serious are you?
What is this in my hands?
Do you have a notepad?
What's the sound? Paper. That's right. That's how you know it's for real. It's not just copy and paste notes that I like half-ass read and I just put them in show notes to make it seem like we prepare. These are paper notes, sir. This is a real preview. I wrote notes.
Why didn't you like type it out? Just have it on another monitor.
I'm old school. I've learned through college that I am not a typer. Like, if I want to know, like if you want to really pay attention, if you want to know that I'm really listening, if I have a pen to paper,
then you're good. You're solid.
I'm
Tim, whatever works. You need to carry the show.
Yeah.
So,
pen to paper, it's for real. If I'm typing, like 60%, and then if I'm copy pasting, like 10%. If I'm copying and pasting notes, there's a 10% retention rate. Like, it is pretty damn quick that I'm gonna forget that. So, I used to prep so hard for the show too. I remember when we did our first live radio show, and Brett, and this is, now keep in mind, I'm a radio veteran. Years in radio, Nuge. Years. Brett's never done a radio show before, and he shows up with like a book of notes.
It really was. It was thick. It was like a lot. And you know what? Then I got in like slightly intimidated by that. So I was like, man, Tim's inviting me back onto the show. Maybe I should be a little bit more prepared. Like last time my first show, we just came in from dinner
Yeah.
and just went straight on the show. But the next time I started coming in with notepads, and then eventually it was like, okay, you know what?
And I looked at both of you and was like, yeah, you guys aren't going to use any of that. It's good to know, like for kids at home, it's a life lesson. Like it's way better to over prepare with a lot of notes. And then so when you go sit down for the test, you're like, oh, this test covers like 1% of what I looked at. But it's like, but if you know
it's that 1%, Tim. It's that one stat I can throw out there. I feel like all those notes were worth it at the time.
100%. 100%. Honestly, I think that's why Decay is no longer doing news. I think he couldn't handle the heat from us. I think he was like, damn, these guys are so prepared all the time.
Like over prepared.
How can I compete?
That's what people say about our show.
Yeah. No, you look, we're lucky if I get the episode right at the beginning. Half the time, I don't even know if I updated the right episode number. So, but hey, no one cares about the episode number. It's just, we're still the #1 esports podcast, and that's what matters. That's what matters.
It's the only number that matters.
Okay, let's get into Yikes of the Week. It is Monday. Oh, how was the Super Bowl for you?
Good. We had family over. I say we had my parents and Kelly's parents over at the house and ordered a ton of barbecue. And, it wasn't the most exciting game, but I did catch myself for the first time, I think, rooting for Brady. I haven't rooted for him in his days with New England because they were just too dominant, right? It was just one after another. But I was excited for the old guy to get in there. Somebody that is getting up in age. It's nice to see the 43-year-old still have it in him and go out there and win one.
So you know this about me, though, and I love Brady. Love him. Never got tired of him winning. I wouldn't even say I was a Patriots fan. I was a Brady fan. I also love Bill Belichick. But I don't know. I think it's the fact that everyone hates him so much. I gravitate towards rooting for him. Because hey, if I'm going to be a Lions, if I'm a Lions fan, I at least want everyone else to be miserable about football with me. And if Brady winning does that, then so be it.
Look, and even though that's not like somebody from one of our teams, just like in any traditional sport or esport, in the big rivalries, you gravitate towards one or the other. Yankees, Red Sox. You might not be from New York or Boston, but I promise you probably have one of those teams that you root for versus the other. North Carolina, Duke, same sort of thing. And this is one of those things where, and
also, like I said, I have family from Tampa. Tampa, I think, is like Detroit 2.0.
You have a real connection to it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just like your family I told was my just mom, living there a few months ago.
My mom's in Tampa right now, and I was like, "Oh, pick me up a T-shirt." So, very exciting, very exciting. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of the game.
Really?
Anuj, I'm gonna say this.
You
quiet.
weren't a 1-year-old. You couldn't find time to.
Yeah. Between a 1-year-old and a 2-week-old, and also my in-laws came over, and I love my in-laws. Okay. I'm going to say this quiet and loud enough to where my wife can hear that I love my in-laws, but quiet enough to where she can't hear this next part. They're not sports people at all.
That's tough.
The whole family is not sports people. So when there are sports on TV, they don't understand hey, it's sport time now. Like
conversation will keep going.
Yes. Hey, it's the Super Bowl. Hey, it's Thanksgiving. It's time for sports now. It's time for sports. I'm not paying attention to a word you're saying to me right now. I'm watching the Super Bowl. Or they were over one time and I had Valorant on, watching esports on the big TV. And as you know, always fun to explain to the in-laws that.
Oh, love it.
And my brother-in-law and my father-in-law were critiquing Valorant, saying that they just can't get into it because the reloading animations weren't realistic. So
that's what did it for him.
That was the straw that broke the camel back, was the reloading animation didn't do it for him.
Not Sova throwing out orbs that stun people, or
not Phoenix throwing a fireball. No, none of that. It was the reloading animation of, mind you, a made-up gun.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they wouldn't reload that much in a fight. Like,
See, my in-laws and my parents were both over. My parents understand the sports side because they grew up around me. Like
right.
they know what it is. My dad's a big sports fan. My in-laws, however, not really like big sports people, but they'll watch, but they like to ask a lot of questions
Mm.
then. And so they'll watch it and they'll like know what's going on, but they ask a ton of questions. So it becomes a you know Rosetta Stone type situation where I feel like I'm explaining another language to them throughout the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll figure this out. Maybe we can just work on the show during the next big game and get
Yeah,
together.
during the Super Bowl. Yeah, we're gonna go work on the show for a bit.
No, don't bother us. Don't bother us. All right. Anyways, it is a day late. It is Monday. Doesn't change the fact that we got Yikes of the Week and a pretty packed one. You'd almost think we
Yeah.
skipped a show with how many Yikes of the Week. I will start with the first one. And I feel like this is not personal on my end, even though I've been saying it from day one that this was a failure. Google plans to shut down the studio, I don't even know how to word this, for Stadia games. So like I first off, I didn't even know Stadia was making like their own games, like Stadia exclusive games made from Google. Had no idea this was a thing. But apparently no one did, because Google is shutting down that department for Stadia, which honestly, let's be real. Like that's the first domino, right?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to probably have their own studio in the first place, right?
No. For all the 10 people who have Stadia to buy it, like,
Well, the whole point is for people to go get those AAA titles that they're not able to play on a PC, right? Or on a good PC or something. And they want those, your Assassin's Creeds, and like those are the ones that people are probably playing on there. But you know me, I've never been sold on, at least the way it is right now, the streaming of games. Like I feel like people want the hardware that play that stuff. And I know there's some people out there that obviously can't get it for financial reasons, and this is that option for them, but I just don't think it's a big enough market to where it's going to be successful.
let me tell you what this about this cloud gaming stuff, because I've tested it out too, and we've even had a friend test it out at DreamHack, where
Yeah.
he didn't want to lug his computer because it's like a fancy one that's like on the wall,
Yeah,
like one of those cases. So he brought a laptop, and it just didn't play well at all. Now I also blame him because he also didn't bring his monitor. He brought like a cheapo monitor, not even 144 hertz, which I think also affects that whole thing. Like there's a lot that has to go into play with. By the time you get the equipment to play cloud gaming, you should just probably buy a cheap computer at this point. Like just
Yeah.
go on Facebook and find
Like,
someone
you're-
selling a computer.
Yeah, if you're trying to get 144 hertz, then you're not buying an external monitor. You're trying to get it on the laptop. That's probably going to be an expensive laptop that
Right.
can play all these
So
games.
you might as well just do it. So either way, my point is I don't understand how Stadia is only here still because of pride at this point. Give it like a year. I don't think Stadia will see Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, not the worst bet. If we're going over under, I don't know if I'm betting against you on that one.
I don't think Stadia will see Christmas. Anuj, your next Yikes.
Yeah, so I don't know a ton about the situation surrounding it, but that's not really going to be the Yikes. The Yikes is going to be the second half of this statement. So Riot has banned pro player Nisei for cheating, and he at the time was a highly ranked player on the EU region. I think at one
they
point
said
he was even the
#1.
number one
Yeah.
ranked EU player on their leaderboard. So somebody that's up there, right? Well, he got banned for cheating. He has obviously denied all the allegations against him, and we'll see if he's able to deliver any information to tell us otherwise. But here's the Yikes, Tim. He got banned for cheating, and Riot gave him a 12-month competitive ban. And to me, that seems really soft, right? If he's actually cheating. Now, if he can provide evidence against whatever stuff they're saying that he was doing. If he can show against it, great. But if you can't provide any evidence that you're not, and they're saying that you are, a 12-month ban seems like a slap on the wrist for hacking. I mean, I don't get that punishment. I would have thought 2 to 3 years, even. I mean, 2 years at least.
This is
For
why
cheating.
I hate it when companies, they love saying it because it sounds really cool, but the zero tolerance policy. I hate it when companies say that, when they're like, oh, we're going to have a zero tolerance policy against cheating, or Twitch with their zero tolerance compliance or whatever, but whatever. Like, they love to say that, because then when things like this come up, you're like, or what's it, the ESIC, right? Zero tolerance to anyone screen sniping, right? Stream sniping. And then all of a sudden Vitality does it and you give them a $10,000 one, and you're like, that's zero tolerance? A $10,000 ban or a $10,000 fine? So 12 months does seem a little odd for someone who cheated their way to the #1 ranking in EU.
I want to see what Riot's evidence against him, because I know the rumors out there that Riot did this because of community pressure. Like, because a lot of people were accusing him
Yeah.
of cheating.
That's also that could also be a potential yikes right back at Riot. You can't be banning people 12 months, because 12 months is still a long time to not have evidence.
No, I think you have to have evidence to ban it. I don't think you should ban anybody without evidence at all.
Whether it's 3 months,
I don't care
12
how
months.
much community pressure there is, and everybody's saying, I don't care if he's speed hacking and it's noticeable. Then you need to do something to be able to track that. Like, there just needs to be evidence that he is cheating. Obviously, speed hacking is taking it too far, but you know what I'm saying.
Right,
like,
right.
I want to see something. So I think this yikes can go either way, but right now it's just, if you have good evidence that he is cheating, 12 months to me seems soft.
Right. But vice versa, if you don't have evidence and it's just like, well, we got a lot of reports on it, 12 months is like, okay. Next yikes here. We've talked about this before. Kind of all in speculation. Man, it might have even been last episode. They all run together now. Blizzard, though, has officially announced it. A little odd. I say this is odd, but we just talked about it last episode with BlizzCon coming up. Blizzard definitely has been catching heat online, and they've noticed it, and they are getting out in front of it, Anuj, because Blizzard has now announced, do not expect Diablo 4 or Overwatch 2 in 2021.
I think this comes from their Q4 earnings calls and all those calls that they have to do. I think this is where that information is coming from. So the fact that they don't expect it in 2021 is it really is disheartening, especially for fans of both titles. Diablo 3, you're in season 27 or 28 of a game that really hasn't changed much in the past few years now. And then Overwatch 2, a game that's, for all intents and purposes, is dying right now and needs a refresh and needs a jump start, needs a stim shot more than anything right now. And to hear it's not coming out this year, so early in the year, like it's February 8th right now, it's insane. Like, it sucks to know that.
They're not even letting you have hope. They're like,
let me at least think that I could get a Christmas release.
Right. Just say, maybe tease something like, hey, we're still working on it at BlizzCon, but you never know, holidays coming up. No, Blizzard is like, nah, nope. No, don't be happy. You know what? Diablo 4, I get it. It's like a fresh game. I get that. But Overwatch 2, and the thing with Overwatch 2 now is they announced, since Overwatch 2 was announced at last year's BlizzCon, there hasn't been really any huge updates to Overwatch. No new map, no new hero, and for a while there, they were going on a good pace of, it was almost like every 3 months or so, there was a good pace of added content. Well, with Overwatch 2 coming out, they stopped that, and everyone was kind of cool with it, because it's like, all right, well, if you're giving me, Overwatch 2 in a year, fine, I'll deal with it. But now that that's not the case, you got to do something. Like, you got to release maps or heroes or something.
Like, to have nothing new in between seasons is kind of disheartening. From the point of basically the start of last season to the beginning of the next season, you've had nothing major change in a game that, again, is desperate for attention right now. And so Yeah, I would completely understand if I was a player and they told me, "Hey, in 1 year we're giving you a new game, but there's no updates coming out this year." Fine, but
Yeah.
now we're going on 2 years. I don't know what BlizzCon's going to be if these two games are not coming out this year. Like, there
Render
has to
art.
be a new IP or something. Like, what are they working on, Tim?
They're just gonna show you a bunch of render art for games. Like, hey, look at this. This is a picture of a map. Like,
Like, I heard they're working on some WoW mobile stuff. We still don't have Diablo Immortal, I don't think. I think that
wow,
might be the big
mobile.
stuff. Huh?
Wow, mobile.
Yeah, like some mobile type of game for WoW. Like, so it might be like some side games or something, or
Okay.
something tied beyond the companion app that they have now. But I heard there's like some WoW type mobile style games that it's tied to WoW.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be like an MMO on your phone, but it's games tied to WoW. But really curious to like see what they have up their sleeve, because this announcement for me is like telling. I mean, okay, whatever you show me for Diablo 4 or Overwatch 2 at BlizzCon, I really don't care because we're not getting it again this year.
Yeah, I'll catch the highlights.
Like, give me another trailer, great. Like that's not that exciting.
All right, Anuj, new segment right here because this warrants something more than just e-news. It needs its own highlighted segment. Well, for now, we'll soft call it Play of the Week.
Original.
Super original. No other show has ever done Play of the Week. Nerd Street Gamers, our friends over at Nerd Street Games, has announced that they will be paying Pulse Arena's debt to all of the talent involved, including friend of the show, Van Silly, and Dust, who we've had both on the show, both being owed money from Pulse Arena. Pulse Arena has gone dark this entire time, not contacting anyone, still owing money, which, let's be real, we know how this works in esports. They're never going to see that money. So Nerd Street
Never.
Gamers, I mean, good dudes, good nominee already for Good Dude of the Year, putting up the bill.
That's huge, because like this has been such a bad stain on the talent community, having to deal with this early on in the life of Valorant. And it was like a big event, a big tournament that took place, and they've all been very vocal about what's going on, as they should be, right? That's how you get more attention towards this issue. And for Nerd Street to step up, boss move right there. Like, that is a PR move. That is awesome for you. That is a relationship move that is awesome for you. Like, there is no negatives to what they did with this. And to make it even for those guys is showing that you're committed to them. And I'm sure mentally and morally it does a lot for them too. So really badass play by Nerd Street there.
Yeah, it's always nice to see in esports where it's like, because it's not, sadly, not uncommon for people not to get paid, right? So for another company to come in, especially like during these times, right? Nerd Street's huge thing was like hosting events, and in a time where they haven't been able to host anything other than the Valorant stuff online, very very cool on their part. Very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Valorant, this happened we didn't talk about Automatic last episode, right? That happened after.
Yeah.
Okay. So Automatic has decided to abandon CS and then join over to Valorant, getting signed by T1. Do you want to say anything on that first before?
Yes.
Really, what's happened
I
here?
do want to say something.
If you want to say something about that, because what's happened here is Automatic, who was on Gen G for CS, left CS to sign with T1 on Valorant, thus causing the domino effect of Brax and AZK getting dropped from T1. So that sets up the scene. A lot happened between last episode and now. So we'll just go in chronological order and get your thoughts on Automatic moving over.
Well, I just asked you last episode, when were we going to have the first like tier 1 player really move over outside of Nitro, who just didn't have the right options available. I think there could have been some options made for Automatic in the NA scene. I'm sure he was probably contacted back by Cloud9 before they made the pickups that they made. I am like super stoked for him, but I'm also sad again, like at the loss of like another young talent for CS:GO that's also part of a historic lineup, right? So he also has like a special place in NA fans' hearts outside of just being a good NA player. Like he means more to the scene than just another NA player that's leaving. And so I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see him in Valorant. I think he's going to do great. It's probably going to re-energize him. My guess is CS got really stale for him over the last 2 years. When you start losing your friends on the team, like Stewie and these guys all leaving, and Tarek and all these guys going their own way. He kind of got left out a little bit in a lot of those scenarios, right? Like Tarek going to Evil Geniuses, Stewie going to Liquid. He was the odd man out and has been bounced around. So I'm excited for him. I think this is going to be a great fresh start. It's something that he needs, and I think he'll do damn well.
Breaking news. I just realized why he spells automatic the way he does. Like I knew his name was Tim. So he put Tim in the middle of it.
Oh, nice.
I I never learned that. Something else I learned while watching Blast series over the weekend. Did you know BIG actually stands for Berlin International Gaming?
Oh, really? No.
I had no idea. Saw it behind him on the stream. I was like, what? I had no
Learn
idea.
Something new all the time.
Yeah, finding all these little secrets out here on the center ring. No, I mirror your sentiment for automatic moving over. I think when he went over to Gen G, first off, I felt like he was always kind of the black sheep of that Cloud9 major victory. For whatever reason, whether or not it's warranted or not, I just felt like when everyone was like getting picked from the roster, automatic was kind of like that last dude who was looked at. And then he went to Gen G, which never took off. Like for all intents and purposes, Gen G just never really took off the way I think a lot of people were hoping for or thought they were. And so now that we see him move over to Valorant, I think you are going to see a little bit more pep in his step, especially with, playing with Skadoodle again, right? Going back, like you mentioned, he kind of saw all his friends leave in CS. Well, now he gets to come play with one. So I think it's good. I also kind of chuckle, not because we love CS. CS is number one. But as an outsider looking in, we have no horse in the race, Anuj, right? If one scene dies in esports and one succeeds, so be it. We're just here to talk about it. But seeing the CS people like sound the alarm that automatic was switching over to Valorant. Like there were a lot of people on Twitter that were like, "Oh, we hate to see you go." Like, "Oh, it's crazy to see you go. Oh man, it's gonna, why are you going over there?" And a lot of fans were kind of taking jabs at Valorant and things like that. And I'm like, I don't understand how these CS people are so. They got their CS tinted glasses on, just not seeing the writing on the wall to where it's like, you have a very strong top, but it's the support underneath where we're seeing kind of become a little shaky. And I don't want to get into another CS versus Valorant discussion because we've done that 1,000 times, but it's just every time a big pro moves over to Valorant, I still see kind of these people, it's just not even giving it its credit, right? It's almost just kind of like, oh, who could have saw this coming? Everyone saw this coming.
Yeah, we've been waiting for automatic to make the move for a while. We've said it so many times, so many times we said automatic is bound to do it at some point.
I mean, even Twist going as a free agent wasn't guaranteed he was signing with CS. Like we even were like, hey, it would make sense for him to go to FaZe, but don't put it past any of these Valorant teams saying, oh, you want to play in EU? Well, how about we throw you this fat stack of money to come play in Valorant? Like that, I wouldn't put that past any free agent.
That would have been crazy, though. Yes, that could have happened.
It could have happened.
That would have been more than just a segment. We probably would have had a whole funeral for CS:GO at that point if Twist had made the move. For automatic, he's unfortunately, because of his team situation and whatever else, has underperformed, recently, and that's also, whether it's the mental struggle or he's just losing it, whatever it may be, that can be part of the reason for the move too. But this move makes sense, and What doesn't make sense, Tim, is the other side of this move. For T1 to announce that they are dropping both AZK and Brax, leaving them one man short on the roster, um, it bothers me a little bit because I really wanted to see this lineup have a little bit more time with automatic introduced into it, and maybe AZK makes sense to drop. He's been underperforming, but uh, Brax hasn't been. So I don't know if that's a package deal or what, but it it kind of sucks because I would have loved to see this lineup with automatic and Brax kind of, both at the helm there.
I think partially was like this is kind of expectation driven. Like when Brax was signed, first off, he was like one of the first, if not the first
I think he
player.
was the first Valorant pro sign, like
Yeah, like
real, yeah.
official like Valorant. I'm a professional Valorant player. I think you're right. So I think, and the expectations, like I think he was making like fat cash, and
He got signed before the beta.
yeah, like that was the running
Yeah,
joke, right?
yeah.
He called himself a Valorant pro before there was even a pro. He called himself a Valorant pro when Riot was still trying to tell people that esports wasn't their focus. Do you remember that when Riot was like,
Yeah.
no, 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 we're not focusing on esports right now. Okay. We just want to create a fun game. And then before you could even load into beta, they were like, oh, here's a esports tournament. Okay. All right. All right, Riot. We're not dumb. We see what you're doing. But back to Brax, I think it's just more expectation driven. I mean, the team as a whole has not been performing well. Brax hasn't been performing well. He was supposed to be this, savior of T1 when they signed him and building the roster around him. He brought his iBuy Power Boys in, which I think on paper created a fun story. But ultimately, it's like, the good old glory days of being a top NACS team and throwing matches is far behind them, because I do think it's part of that. I wonder though with Brax where he goes from here. I don't know if
He'll have plenty. Brax will have a lot of choices. I think AZK is in the tough position of finding a good home, but I could see. I mean, Brax could go to Gen G. There's a handful of options, I think, for Brax out there because he has played well. I think he needs to get away from the support role. I don't think that should really be how he's utilized personally, but maybe that's what he wants to do. But I would take him out of more of a support role and you know get him up there in the front lines a little bit. I think Brax will find a home relatively quick if he's ready to jump right back in, which I assume he is. AZK is gonna have a little bit of a tougher time. Like the transition wasn't as smooth for him.
I want to see Brax kind of break out a little bit though. Like he just needs to, I feel like this is kind of a reflection of his play where it's like he just needs to loosen up a little. Like, like kind of, I don't know,
He
roll
probably
the
got these crazy expectations on himself.
That's what I'm saying. Like just, kind of roll the shoulders back, loosen up a little bit, right? And just play. Like I feel like that's half the time. Like every time I see him in an interview or even on stream, he just looks so stoic and in his own head that it's like a blood vessel's about to bust or something. And it's like, dude, just I mean, T1 was one of the hotter teams coming out of beta.
Yeah.
And since then every team's been able to catch up and surpass them. So it's like you said, it kind of sucks to make this many roster moves at once because I guess we'll never know, right? It turns into one of those we'll just never know what would have happened with more support around them. But
Yeah, again, I mean, they just they have four now, so they still need somebody. So, like I said, I would have liked to have just seen Brack stay there and just see how a tournament or two goes, but they weren't willing to wait that out. So now you have automatic along with Skadoodle and Dazed, and now and Spider being the fourth. So we'll see who they pick up and how they round this roster out. But Automatic's a great pickup, so I don't want to take anything away from that. I just hate to see Brax go too, and we'll see where he ends up and who the fifth is here. But uh, ultimately, this could still be a great move. Like if Automatic comes in and does really well, and it sounds like he's been playing Valorant a decent amount, so we'll see how they look, and it's something exciting to keep an eye on.
yeah, it's funny that you say that. And just to my point too, where people are like, whoa, I can't believe he left CS. Automatic was literally tweeting out that like he didn't touch CS during the players break. He's like, never thought I'd play a Riot game my entire time on break. Like,
Yeah.
did you think he was talking about league? Like, hello. Like, that's pretty much writing on the wall from the get-go. And let's not forget the last time T1 dropped players in Uge. Crashies and Food are now in contention of making Envy the #1 team in Valorant.
So I would not be shocked if Brax went to a team and like they did well. Like there is a place for him, and I think he'll find a good home somewhere.
Where was I can pull it up here. Cloud9 at? I know, didn't we talk about them last week where they were kind of
signed a 6th man now, so they have their 5th and their 6th.
Okay. So Brax.
The 5th we talked about last week.
Yeah. So Brax probably won't be their 7th.
Most likely not.
Maybe he'll join White. Maybe they'll sign him on White. Never
Can
know.
you do that?
Why not? Why not? It's just colors in Uge. Okay, it's 2021. They can sign whoever they want to their gender exclusive teams. All right, so there you have it. Brax, AZK out, automatic in for T1. We'll see how that adjusts them going forward. But Anuj, it's that time of year. We finally have it this weekend. Call of Duty League season 2021, officially their 2nd season under the franchise model, is coming into fruition. And you know what? I think what we can do with my handy dandy handwritten and highlighted notes, we can kind of just go in order. I can kind of give a quick brief of the changes, the formats, things to expect. And then if you want, we can just get into the teams.
Let's do it.
All right, so Call of Duty League 2021, when is it set to start? On the 11th. So the start each weekend will start on a Thursday, so keep that in mind. Each Thursday we'll have about 2 matches from what I've seen, at least with this first stage. So Thursday through Sunday. Valentine's Day will be the final day of this one, so yet again, Anuj, esports does not care about your holiday calendar.
No, not at all.
Do not care. This is where it gets tricky. So right now it's going to be online. Atlanta is hosting this first event. However, it is going to be online. Now, the rumor though, there are rumors going around, and I remember seeing this months ago and just never hearing anything of it, but I recently got a per source DM, Anuj, that there are talks of a bubble happening right here in Texas. So that's why you kind of see players like hinting of Texas and maybe looking at team houses in Texas and things like that, to where maybe not, obviously not right now to kick off the season, but down the road, maybe for a stage playoff or things like that for the majors, they can have
that would be badass
offline events. So especially here, if it's in Texas, maybe we can sneak into that house. I'll
find a way.
I'll take a Rona test to be into the house, right? Maybe get some interviews there. I don't know. Well, we know some people that know people that we could definitely at least try.
we could throw a call out there.
Right. What if they were like, yes, you can come to this house, but you have to stay here for like the entire weekend.
Yeah, sign me up.
Say no more. I'll sleep on the floor. Say no more, please. God. And so that's it for now. Right now it is online. We're still continuing online, but possibly down the road you'll see offline matchups in some type of player bubble. And the prize pool is 5 million for those who care. Now, as far as the format goes, this is where big changes come into play compared to last year. Honestly, the league looks completely different on the way it's going to function from last year. So let me break it down for you. It is somewhat confusing, or at least I
should also have a pen and a paper.
Yes. Well, right, and now you know why I had to write this down, because copying and pasting was not going to do it justice. So the way this works is that there are 5 stages plus champs. Okay. Each stage will consist of 3 group stages. Okay. So 3 weeks of groups. That will determine the seeding for the major, which is just the end of month tournament, which will be treated like a playoff bracket double elimination. You repeat that 5 times, and then you get to champs. So
Yeah, so basically,
it's somewhat like how Overwatch did it their last, I think, like couple months of the season last year, where
I
they
think
had
so they can have every team compete each week.
so
You
that's
don't want to have weeks where
yeah.
FaZe is not competing, or Chicago is, Optics not competing, or
Yep.
Dallas is not competing.
So that's
like
the
it
other
probably
big
didn't
thing
make sense.
is because
Yeah.
the way they're doing this is every team is now competing. You don't have a team with a bye week. You don't have teams going 2 weeks without playing or things like that. It's just, hey, this week you're going to have a group play. It will be round robin. This will determine your seeding for the end of month major.
I like this better, actually. I like every team competing every week.
I do too, and I think it will make it even better for our, weekly betting show that we're going to host on YouTube.
Yeah.
The Esports Advisors, that will work out better for it. And I also just like having that little major, because first off, last year it was ridiculous that the players were still counting each event as like a winning, like as they won. Like when they almost treated it like, oh yeah, we won MLG Dallas, and then it's like, oh well, we won the Dallas homestand, so that counts as a major victory. Look,
a champs victory. It's like, no, that's not it.
I love Crims, and I love all these pros. No, it doesn't. You had like 8 teams there. Like not all the teams were there. Those did not count the same as like winning back in the day for MLG Fort Worth. So this though, you could say, okay, the end of month major, that is an actually pretty big tournament, because that will also, where you end in that will determine, you'll get points to end up with your seedings for champs at the end of
Which that's huge, because as we know, there's buys involved, and there's last 2 teams generally don't get a payout. So, I like how they're doing this.
And
It kind of breaks it up a little bit.
There's only so last year, they had every team go in. This is only going to be top 8. Top 8 teams with the most CDL points advance to champs. So
Nice.
Not everyone makes the dance like they did last year. You won't have I know LA pretty much threw last year, but there was like one team I think did
Gorillas or something.
Gorillas, or
Yeah.
I think, what was it, Seattle? One of those bottom teams threw. I know that. But yeah, so those are your big changes for format. Obviously, things that we've discussed in the show already, but in case you missed it, roster sizes have been cut to 4 starting. So it's, again, 4v4, not 5v5. So we're back to the traditional 4v4 like it has been forever in Call of Duty. That forced some teams to make moves, which we'll get to. And I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make for the viewers at home, but the players are playing on PC this year. Not mouse and keyboard, league-approved controllers, but it is on PC. So I don't know if that does anything for us, but there you have it.
Be better for them, which is going to be a better product for us.
True. And it will probably help in situations like where if something happens, the game drops or things like that. I hope they have more access to...
I'm pretty sure they do. I think that was one of the big reasons for the change,
like
too.
They can manage it a little easier than what would be on a console. So those are your big changes. Now we can get into kind of just group stage 1 here, Anuj, if you want, and just use that as a launching point to talk about some teams. For these groups, okay, the groups, you have Group A and Group B. These were decided back at the kickoff event a couple weeks ago. Dallas ended up picking for Group A, given that they were the champs last year. Atlanta, being the runner-up, picked for Group B. So there's no rhyme or reason to like geological location or things like that with the groups. And as far as I understand, is that they will reset every, from what I understand, stage. I don't think these reset every week. I think they reset every stage. Now, with that being said, and this is just me being honest, I don't really understand the point of the groups, because the top 8 make it to champs, not top 4 from each group. The top 8 make it to champs.
Yeah, maybe to give it some sort of round robin feel for the week,
Yeah, but
I
just put them all in one group then. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure it was some scheduling reasons for groups and things like that, but whatever. All right, so at this point, do you want to go through the schedule? Do you want to just run through the teams, go through what some big changes for these teams?
Yeah, we can like kind of just do a little bit of a team breakdown for some of these guys. I mean, I think only there's a handful of really big ones that are,
Right.
worthy of discussing. And I think the most exciting part of this is just we've discussed it at its own show, but like the LA Thieves and Optic Chicago, LA being welcomed in and 100 Thieves being in part of the group and Optic coming back. Like those are that's the biggest storyline. Like that has dominated the CDL storyline, and it's not even close because 100 Thieves brings over now 1 million fans of their own already, right? There's a huge following for them, and so that's welcoming in a whole new audience of just 100 Thieve fans. And now you have old Optic back, and if this was on land, Tim, I can tell you 110% I would find a way to make it to one event because I want to see how crazy that green wall goes again. And we've seen it firsthand experience. Like the green wall dominates at these events. Like the fans are just crazy. And so having both of these, iconic in one sense and newly iconic in the other, to have both of them back is really exciting for me.
First off, we're all winners in this when we got to drop the Chicago Huntsman branding. Worst
Yeah.
branding in the league by 1,000 miles. The worst branding in all of esports. And Hex will never admit it, but it was ugly. He'll never admit it.
It was.
But it was ugly. And so yeah, now we have Optic back in its rightful spot. So I think that's going to be huge for Optic fans. I wonder, because for me, I always thought last year Optic struggled when they lost. Like they were just really bad at rallying after a loss. And for the most part, their roster, they made some big changes, but the core is still the same. You still have Scump, you still have Formal. They've added Dashy, who I believe was on Optic, this is going to be a mess trying to figure it out.
LA
He was in
Optic.
LA Optic. Now he's on Optic Chicago. They've dropped though the twins. So Arcides and Pristini are off the team. On separate teams too. They did not stick together. So we'll get to them in a moment, but you do have some new faces as far as Chicago goes. To me, I am still going to be on the doubt bandwagon. I think it's a feel-good story. I wonder how much the momentum of Optic can carry. Like, just the hype level alone will probably get them through. But I would still...
Well, it's also pressure, though, right? It's not
Yeah.
only good. Like, the Optic brand brings a lot of pressure, I think, back to him also. I think this will be a good lineup, though. I think Dashy it's going to be key to see what kind of Dashy we get, right? Do we get last year's Dashy, or do we get, like, Black Ops 3 and all that kind of Dashy? Like, I'm really curious to see, what we get out of him. If he goes back to form, Envoy was a candidate for MVP last year. Scump and Formal played their roles really well. This could be a pretty lethal team. And we've seen Scump and Formal, like these guys were their best when it was 4v4. So I think that's like a whole new dynamic going back to that. Like Clayster has never won anything but, a 5v5, like his last two championships were both in the 5v5 era. And so, for him, it's maybe a negative change where I think for Scump and Formal going back to 4v4 is nothing but a positive.
And then on the flip side, you're asking about Dash. Are we getting old or new? Well, with LA Thieves, they, for the most part, have the former Optic roster. JCap ended up retiring from a player, but he's now coach, and Temp is now with LA Thieves. This is where it is going to make a world of a difference if this bubble rumor is true. Because if it's not, and if these players are still playing in LA, well, it's like, I want to ask Slasher, like, where's your mindset at now? Because you got to remember, their whole thing last year, and not just them, most West Coast teams were, well, this isn't fair. We're West Coast playing on Central and East Coast servers because the first server that gets banned every time is the West Coast, right? Which, albeit, like, you don't want to say, like, well, that's an excuse, because it's like in esports and gaming, that's huge. There's a reason we don't go play on West Coast servers, right? Like, because it's just not optimal. So I don't know if new ownership, if Nate Shot and just 100 Thieves in general is just good enough to feel good and just play through it. But if they're still playing in LA, I see the mindset going back pretty quick. Now, I guess I would assume they're not in LA. I would assume they're playing elsewhere at this point, but they need the bubble.
I did think that there were more server options for this game than there were last time around. Am I wrong in thinking that?
I mean,
I thought there was something about that where there was like it was going to be better because there was like multiple locations compared to
again. That's what
previous
they
years.
said that towards the end of last season as well, when they added more server options. That didn't seem to change the tone of the West Coast teams.
Seattle for sure, right? That was like kind of the biggest team that cried about it for right reasons at the time. But yeah, I mean, look, we don't care about those excuses, right? Like, I mean,
no, we didn't.
Unfortunately,
really. Even last year, it's like everyone's got to play on it.
Yeah, like everyone's gonna deal with different issues in this online era, and so I think the LA Thieves team will be okay though. Like I don't have super high expectations for them. I mean, I think that team has some big name players on it, but last year left a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't know how they'll. I know they can go full tilt easily. So if I was betting, I'm probably not betting on them, too much just for that reason alone. Is I would need to see what their psyche is.
Optic. Like I look at LA Thieves, and it's like you want to get caught up in the hype, you want to get caught up in the feel good, but this is still old Optic. Like this is Optic LA, and apart from maybe a brief moment last year in Champs, they weren't that great. So
no, I mean, like even in Champs, it's not like they went that far. They won a couple of games, and everybody made it a big deal because we're not used to seeing them winning.
Optic LA won 2 games last year in Champs, and that was considered a run.
Yeah, like that was a deep run.
For me, another team that I am more interested in than not is New York Subliners. Made a lot of changes in the offseason, which, funny enough, was a little surprising to me in the sense of they were a surprise last year. You know, we talked to a lot of pros last year and, asking, hey, what's the team to watch? What's the underdog? What's a team like people might not be thinking of? And unanimous across the board, New York was the team. Like the Subliners, they were like, Subliners are actually really good in scrims and practice. You need to watch them. And sure enough, I think end results weren't really there, but they looked good. Like enough to where you thought, okay, let's keep the band back together. But they ended up dropping a lot of people. Attach and Accuracy both moved to Minnesota. Sensor is now a free agent, maybe unofficial retirement at this point. Zuma had to retire because of hand injuries. And then they ended up picking up Clayster, who was ultimately just the man cut from Dallas, being the odd man out in a 4-man roster. So yes, they made a lot of roster moves, but Anuj, this to me is a powerhouse team. You got Mac and Clayster, which for me, like Clayster just seems to have the magic touch when it comes to young players and borderline rookie players. So I'm excited for this New York team.
Man, I'm gonna say I'm on the fence with them. I'm not gonna get too hyped. I think Clayster had extraordinary talent with young talent on Dallas last year. Like, there's not many times you run across like a Shotzi type player. That's like not common. We're a little spoiled because we just saw Simp do something similar, so it felt fresh. Like, oh, a new guy is MVP caliber. Like that doesn't happen often. And this could be Mac's breakout year, and they really need it to be this year. Like he has to take that next step. Like he was good last year and people appreciated that. Now he needs to be like superstar level. And with Zuma leaving and Awesome coming in, like Awesome is good, but he's again not like he's a good role player within the team. So I don't know a lot about the other pickup for them, Diamond Con, Young, but I have my I have my doubts on them going really far, into this event. Like I could see them being a top 8 team, but I wouldn't have much higher hopes beyond that right now. A lot of unknowns, like so many unknowns. Like Clayster is not going to be your hard carry. Awesome's probably not going to be your hard carry. Mac showed it to us for a portion of last year, and Diamond Con is unproven. So,
My one
makes me
thing
nervous.
with Clayster, best friend by the way, me and him are best friends, is like we saw it with E United, and we saw it early on with Dallas, but I feel like Dallas last year was so strong consistently, like you didn't really have to worry about it, and that's him getting tilted. Like we've seen it where it was really prevalent on E United and early on with Dallas, where it's like when things are struggling, when you're on that struggle bus, how fast can you get off of it? How fast can you kind of recover and regroup? Well, I know he's also kind of bitter about being the man cut from Dallas. How prevalent are those thoughts in the back of his head, right? They lost to Dallas in the kickoff stage, which I'm sure didn't feel good. So if things go south early for New York, is Clayster going to sit there and being like, I shouldn't even be here right now? Like I should be, going for a back-to-back with my boys in Dallas right now. And
Or
that,
this is not the team that I thought I was going to have around me.
yeah,
Could be the other thought. Like he made this move when they had attach, accuracy, and Zuma, and now none of them are there. Like none of those three are there. Those were the veterans on that team along with Clayster. Now he is really the only veteran on that team, and like Awesome's a veteran too. But again, I don't think there's enough there. That's
the
what my gut tells
excitement
me preseason right
the
now.
excitement or the unknown is what excites me about them. The unknown is what makes you afraid. The unknown is what excites me.
Like Minnesota, I think has a better chance of advancing farther to me than New York does at the moment. And they have two of New York's players on there of accuracy and attach. They got Major Maniac from Atlanta. He was the odd man out there, along
And
with Priesta
Priesta,
from Atlanta.
huge,
Both
huge
of those
pickups for
guys.
Minnesota.
Yeah, I
Like to,
think that's like that they acquired some people that know how to win,
yeah,
right? Like they might not be the favorites in everybody's eyes, but they know how to win. I think that'll be a very solid team throughout the year.
yeah, for a complete roster overhaul. Every single player on that team is new to the franchise. I I think they came out best as far as like free agency pool. Not saying that they're going to be number one or anything, but last year they were doing well. And then you remember online play started, and they were awful,
Terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
Which is another excuse of why the West Coast online I wasn't buying it, because Minnesota's not West Coast, and they just went south way fast when online started. So different players though. So hopefully we don't see the same repeat as far as with online being a thing at the moment. But yeah, I love the roster for Minnesota as far as being a complete roster overhaul. I feel like they did they would win the offseason as far as like overhauling your roster goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. Like for a complete rebuild, and I would throw New York in that mix. You have the Royal Ravens in that mix.
Seattle for the most part, I think.
Yeah, Seattle 3 out of the 4. So like, there's a handful of teams that made multiple moves, and to me, Minnesota came out swinging and put a really good roster together, considering they did a full turnover. And finally, Tim, for me, you have the two powerhouses. Like these two teams, I think are going to be once again near the top throughout the whole season, and that's Atlanta and Dallas. Dallas, a team that didn't make any changes other than the required change, right, of having to drop one man from the roster. So it's going to be a familiar team for everybody with Crimsix, Illy, Hugh, and Shotzi on the team. Um, that's a lethal team again in my eyes. Those young guns are only going to get more confident, having skins on the wall, being champions already. Like they've proven that they know how to win. And then in the dominant fashion that they ended the year, right? With how they beat Atlanta and overcoming that hurdle that we talked about as a storyline all of last year, right? Could Dallas overcome that hurdle of Atlanta? Like they had zero success, it felt like, against them during the, very limited success against them during the regular season. And for them to go in there and, you know, 3-0 them or 3-1, whatever the final ended up being, in the fashion that they did it in, Dallas is going to be a good team again this year. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, I think they've kept their core. Like, I think at the end of the day, it does suck seeing Clayster leave. Obviously, he was a fan favorite. My personal best friend that we have a long history of playing Battalion 1944 with.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace to that game. But I do think Dallas overall, like, they kept they didn't have to do much. So yes, would you want Clayster on your team? Of course. But I also think when it comes to keeping the stronger point of it, I do think, because first off, when you were looking at who to cut, Shotzi, Hook, and Illy were never in the discussion. Never.
They were together. That
Yes.
was the group.
Those are your young staples that you are building around at this point. You had your veterans in Crim 6 and Clayster. So it was always going to be, in my eyes, one of those. You were never going to cut a young up-and-coming talents who have proven to work, right? So it was always going to be a veteran player. And I just felt like, very slight edge goes to Crim 6 as far as being a little bit more consistent with his gameplay. So yeah, I for me, Dallas is the favorite going into the season. First off, they were not to brag, but they were my pick last year in our preview, and I was right. So for me, I think right now they are the favorites to repeat, and it's mainly just because all the other teams in the league have made some significant changes or not enough changes in my eyes, where Dallas just is kind of sitting pretty. They were like, yeah, we don't have to do anything.
FaZe got better, though, in my eyes, right? So swapping out Priesta for Arcides, that's not a bad move. Like, Priesta's a very good player, and he'll do well on Minnesota, but you just got Arcides, who's been one of the consistently, he had a rough outing in champs, I get that, but like he's been consistently one of the best players in the league for the last few years. Always concerning when you don't see his brother's name on the roster. You don't know how that's going to play out for them throughout the year. We've seen that be an issue already in the first year.
I think Arcides, though, I think you're right. I think with Arcide and even Pristini both, right? But we'll use Arcides here for my point. He was never, to me, like a good personality fit in Chicago. He just seems more of like the not yelling in your face kind of guy. And like scump and formal, like defines yelling in your face kind of guys. So I feel like maybe from a personality standpoint, it just didn't fit, which is kind of why we saw him struggle at times in Chicago when things got rough. Again, I just felt like you didn't have that voice of reason with Chicago. So I think him moving over to FaZe, a little bit more laid back, familiar play style, being that he won a world championship with Simp while in E United, right? So you kind of have that reunion going into play.
That's a huge part of the reason I'm sure he wanted to go there.
Yeah.
Right? He's played with him and he's had success with him. They won a championship together. Like, it's a great move. So FaZe to me is better this year than they were last year, and that was a scary ass team last year. And so that's why I see them in Dallas really
too was on that E United team,
locking down those top spots.
Yeah. So I mean, 3 of the 4 have been teammates before and won a championship before.
Yeah, Beezy was with them too, right?
Yeah. So looking pretty good for FaZe as far as on paper. Again, it just seems like things have changed so much, but it's kind of hard to go back and compare to last year because it's always a different game, right? You always have that caveat. But like you mentioned, like a lot of these guys just mentally could not get around the 5v5. So just going back to 4v4 and having one less voice doing call outs and in your head, Like, is that enough for a lot of these players just to kind of get their game back and calm down a little bit and not worry as much going forward? I don't see why not, right? To me, I know for me personally, that would be huge to not have one extra person on the team that you have to worry about doing call outs for.
Yeah. I'm excited for this season with the 4v4. Like, it'll be a good change of pace, and it's just tradition. It feels very traditional, right? So it's like we're going back to the way it was, and look, now people don't have those excuses that you've heard from some of these veteran players, with the 5v5, saying that it doesn't really count because it's different and it's just like a different game. Well, all right, you got what you wanted, right? You got your 4v4 back. Let's see if the vets can step up, or is it going to be a team of young guns again that come through?
Yeah, so that, again, it will start on the 11th is the first stage. Well, I should say it's week 1 of stage 1. And then we'll have week 2 next week 3 the following week, and then the double elimination major at the end of the month. And then, again, rinse and repeat that 5 months in a row, and then we will have champs at the end of the year. So I said the major will give you points for champs. I don't know how the way I'm going to read you the way it was worded online. For you get 10 CDL points per group stage win. So for every just general win during group stage, you will get 10 points as well. That's how I'm assuming that works. I don't know if they mean overall win, if they just mean, I don't necessarily. I guess we'll find out together this week as far as the wording on that and what they mean by 10 points per win. But so you're going to see, like, again, it's going to seem weird, like, to mentally get around where I think this first weekend will feel a little hollow because you won't have a winner. There is no, like last year you had group stage on Thursday or Friday, and then by Sunday, though, you were back into a playoff bracket and you had a distinctive winner for that weekend. You don't have
now you're
that.
Building up for the month.
Right, exactly. You don't have a distinctive winner at the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
You have groups that, build up, and then you have the playoff at the end of the month. That's when you will have your winner. But like this week, we won't come back next week and be like, oh, wow, Dallas took the win. Like, they took the W. Again, it'll kind of be a little bit more entertaining for us to talk about because you'll have a lot more what ifs leading into each major at the end of the month. But I think for a lot of Call of Duty fans, it might feel a little hollow because Call of Duty fans are so used to just every event being a major tournament, right? Where here it's like, yeah, it's kind of like an entire month build up to that, though. So little different. Doesn't mean it's a bad different. It's just different. So either way, I'm excited for the season to get up with. Just one other friendly reminder: every week, Anuj and I will be the esports advisors on our YouTube page as we go over our key matchups and give you our picks on the odds and everything there for betting and gambling purposes. But of course, always gamble responsible. So that will be on YouTube. So we'll remind everyone on the show and everything there. But check that out, youtube.com/thecentering, the esports advisors. Very original show name. Trust me. Super original. All right. Any last thoughts on Call of Duty then before we get going? With Enu?
No, it's funny because even without playing this iteration of the game, I'm so excited for the Pro League to kick off. Like, they was so successful last year in my mind, and I'm ready for year 2 to be just as good, honestly.
Can we promise each other something?
Sure.
We will not let the Pro League hype us up into buying it.
No, I'm not going to get it. I'm too addicted to WoW, Tim. It's a problem. In fact, I need help. If somebody out there that is listening, I need help right now.
You need to have yourself a second kid. Because my second son is the only thing saving me from being on this computer all day playing WoW. Like,
yeah, I would rather play right now.
Like, I look up every video that I can to learn every little class, and I don't even have the time to play. But you need to have.
Just want to see what's going on.
If you're worried about playing too much video games, just have 2 children. That will solve it.
We'll think about that.
It will solve it pretty quick. Solve that one. Or you can just, I mean, if you want, I can drop them off at your house.
Even better. Bring them both up. Bring them both.
Yeah, you and wife.
Get some free time so you can just play a little bit.
You can watch them both. That'll be easy to catch up with. All right. So there you have it. Let's get into some e-news. Hope everyone enjoyed the Call of Duty League preview. E-news, again, is brought to you by our good friends at Philly Esports. Philly Esports host monthly online tournament events. Check them out, phillyesports.net. Don't let the name confuse you. You don't have to be in Philadelphia to join. If you just signed up, last weekend was their 3v3 Search and Destroy tournament for Call of Duty Cold War. So just, again, keep an eye on Twitter. Keep an eye on our Discord. We have Adam from Philly Esports in our Discord. If you have any questions, feel free to ask him. But keep an eye out for March's event and everything there. Get your boys together. Sign up. Win money. Go pro. It really is that easy with Philly Esports. All right. Let's get into some e-news. With CS. I almost feel bad that we didn't talk about this more, but I don't know what else there is to say other than reading it. North cease not just their CSGO operations, but everything. They're done.
That was like such a major investment into that organization, and for it to just fail is concerning, obviously. But they just didn't find a lot of success, fortunately. They had a couple of runs here and there that seemed okay, but man, nothing ever consistent, and it was just bad move after bad move, it felt.
They seemed like when North first really hit the scene, like they were practicing in that soccer stadium overlooking the field. They were sponsored by Adidas. They were so cool. Like they were like the team you wanted to play for, because like it just seemed like their resources were endless. Now, I do recall like a month ago, I did mention like I forgot they even existed because they've been so irrelevant for so long. I didn't think they were this irrelevant, though, to just completely cease operation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure sponsorships and all that ran dry, and man, that was the coolest spot to practice.
Dude.
Where they were sitting looks so badass. But
so stay hard.
I mean,
stay hard, North. Stay hard. Which is weird, though, because CS is such a flourishing esport.
Everyone's making money.
Everyone's making money in esports and CS. It's so easy. I don't understand. Apparently, North couldn't just spend more money to succeed. Weird. Group A finishes up with the Berlin International
Gaming.
Berlin International Gaming. I forgot what it stood for. Taking top spot against NIP in the finals.
This is for Blast Pro or Blast Premier, spring or whatever that they have going on right now. I mean, NIP actually beat Big in the semis, sending them to the lower bracket. Then Big knocks out Astralis and then comes back and beats NIP. And so unusual finals there with Big and NIP making it through. But, good for both of them. It's a great way to start the year to make a finals. And congrats to Big for taking it home.
Yeah, good matches. I ended up actually watching these because I'm up all the time now. And NIP logo still ugly.
Yeah, I agree.
Still hideous. Poison returns to the starting lineup for Complexity after, he was only benched not that long ago.
He wasn't, I think he benched himself. I don't think he was
okay.
Benched in the true sense, but made it like he was sick or something. It's not like he was off the roster. He's one of their best players. So Poison comes back. They win today. They beat Vitality 2-0 in Group B. So a great start in his return, and hopefully this is where they can start to turn it around. I think taking a 2-0 over Vitality right now when they're playing so well is going to be a big confidence boost for them.
Another one ceases operations as Decay announced just a little bit ago today that he is done as an insider for CS, as he is moving into a player agency role. And, obviously we wish him all the best. We've got to meet him a handful of times at events. Seems like an okay dude. I guess we might have to work a little harder on finding e-news for CS, considering it was pretty much just reading Decay's Twitter. But,
yeah,
I do wish him the best. I wish him the best. I think he's a nice guy. He's nice.
I like his work. I mean, his work for sure is good.
Yeah.
He gives us a lot of
Would
good
we
content.
be
And
best friends?
look, this is a loss for CS
Probably
because he is one of the few leakers, right?
Yeah.
Or insiders or whatever you want to term you want to throw there. He provides a ton of information for CS:GO, so there is a void to be filled there, and we'll
again,
see who does it.
If you want that ride or die homie, Decay was a ride or die bitch for CS. Like, he was through and through a fanboy of CS. He would, truly, loved it.
And Richard Lewis.
And Richard Lewis. He was definitely part of their.
I think he'll do well in the player agency role, though.
Yeah.
He's obviously got a good relationship with a lot of people, and so
I would love to get him on at some point when he gets his feet a little wet, though, to see if he appreciates things differently now. Because I felt like him as a analyst, not even an analyst, but as an insider, his outlook, and we've talked about it before on the show, was always just like, well, just spend the money. It's easy. Yeah. Just do it. Other teams are doing it. Why aren't you doing it? Just do it. Like, it just seemed like he just felt like the only reason you didn't want to do it is because you didn't believe yourself. Decay is also one of those guys, much like Hex. He probably quotes Michael Jordan 1,000 times a day to himself. Is there any doubt in your mind that he has a Michael Jordan quote somewhere up in his room?
You definitely got a poster.
Just something. Mad Lions release Peacemaker. Unbelievable.
It's I guarantee you he finds another home relatively quick.
If ever you thought, look, Corona's been a difficult time for everyone. If you were laid off and you haven't had a job and you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get back on my feet, I don't know if I'm ever going to turn this around, I want you to look at Peacemaker. Just go to Liquipedia and look at his career. And then you tell yourself that there is always another option. Because for any other sane person, you would have found a different profession. You would have gone into content creation. You would have gone into analyst for some TO. No, this man has a dream and he wants to live it. Damn it. And I at this point, I appreciate him.
And did you pull up his wiki to see how many teams he was on?
Just for CS:GO, he has been on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He played on 5 teams. Then since November of 2015, end of November, so December pretty much of 2015, he has coached 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams. This man has coached 9 teams in what is pretty much 4 years.
That's pretty insane. He's averaging 2 teams a year.
Do not ever give up. That's all I'm going to say. I want him on the show because I just want to tell him that I appreciate. He is my Michael Jordan quote.
He's probably got a lot of jerseys. That's kind of dope. And maybe that's the goal.
Yeah, his closet, it must be just full of free swag from these teams.
A lot. A lot.
He has so many free t-shirts.
Maybe that's the play.
I Am Katowice starts on the 16th, and we'll probably preview it in the next show. What's 16th next Monday, right? Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So either Wednesday or something. We'll give it its just due. It's Katowice, guys. It's the big one, right? Or a big one for CS. So we'll talk about it, and it's honestly probably one of the biggest tournaments other than Blast, right, for the last year. So also comes full circle. This was really the first tournament that was affected by Corona for CS. Yep. So full circle. In Valorant news, Vitality enters Valorant. So we have another org.
We see Furia, enter as well with their first 2 signings there, and We saw Evil Geniuses recently. We saw Fanatics recently. So, it's pretty much every major org. If you're not in, you're left out right now. You don't feel like you're part of the club. So, looks like everyone's kind of dipped their feet in and getting this going here on Valorant side.
C9 signed Poise, as Anuj was mentioning earlier in the show, as their 6th player. So they went from having 4 to 6.
Yeah, somebody's getting cut. Telling you right now, somebody's getting cut.
Yeah,
They're not going to roll with 6 for too long.
No, not with that roster. Furia, you already mentioned Furia enters the scene. Sentinels win the first stage of the Champion Tour NA as NIP, of all teams, win first in EU, defeating G2 in the finals.
Yeah, G2 lost to them in the quarters, and Fnatic had this was their kind of their first run. FPX knocked out Liquid, so NIP coming out on top. I think a little bit of a surprise probably to a lot of people, but they've been good. It's just there's a handful of teams that you thought might take it over them.
In other FPS news, Ubisoft had to announce that they are postponing the 2021 Six Invitational. This happened days before it was supposed to start. I gotta believe teams were already actually in Paris. Like, pretty unreal timing on how this all started. You want to yell at Ubisoft for doing this, but I think from what I read, it was more the city of Paris said no. Because it was going to be a LAN. Like, it was... from what I understand, was going to be a normal tournament, and then, Europe or Paris or wherever, France, kind of redid their Corona rules and said, sorry, can't do it anymore.
That sucks. That really sucks.
Like, so I don't think it wasn't wasn't Ubisoft all of a sudden had a change of heart. I think they were probably just riding it out for as close as they could, and then waited to the last possible moment to pull the plug. So it is what it is. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, hard to blame anybody in this situation.
Yeah.
Especially if it was new guidelines, new rules, just unfortunate timing. It was a risk they took setting it up in the first place at this time of year.
They can't really be that shocked either, right?
Yeah.
Probably. I'm sure they read the news. I'm sure they know. In Battle Royale, TSM leaves competitive Fortnite, but they have some of the bigger Fortnite streamers still. But pretty big. I mean, I would say for teams backing out of Fortnite, that's kind of the first big one that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be the last, but there's not going to be a ton of teams dropping out right now with the new $20 million, prize pool. Like, more people will probably kind of get into the competitive scene and start playing. But yeah, it's weird. I mean, I'm sure they do better with their streamers, honestly, with Myth, Hamels, Daquan. Like, these guys are some of the biggest Fortnite streamers when they are streaming. So they'll still be invested in the game, just not invested in the competitive side.
And in other e-news, Twitch Purple Screen of Death, we actually mentioned it, I think it was last episode, in the emergency Yikes, maybe? We did mention it. Oh, that's all I know. It's really just all of a sudden it started really taking storm now. Now, it's funny, like, now that people brought it up, now that Juked kind of brought it up, I see it everywhere now.
Yeah,
and
now it bothers you.
Yeah, right. Now it's like, okay, this is stupid, Twitch. Because now you're seeing it come into League of Legends streams. Like, on the official League of Legends website, it's getting Purple Screen of Death. In-game advertisement that had in-game embedded streams are getting the Purple Screen of Death. It's like, I think at first when it was just affecting like some little Street Fighter tournament, people didn't really care. But now that it's affecting Riot's actual website to show this stuff on,
now a couple calls are being made.
Yes, now it's, maybe we can't just constantly do this. And if you watched the Super Bowl, you may have saw esports at the Super Bowl, Anuj.
Yeah, it was cool. We saw Doc in the stands pretty early, I think, in the first quarter. You saw the Doc sitting there in the stands in his cardboard cutout that they had him in. I know Nade Shot was in a Rockstar commercial. A brief little cameo there, but still really cool to be involved with that, even though it's not like a gaming commercial, right? It's energy drink related to gaming in that sense, but a lot of ways they could have gone and included Nade Shot there. And then we did have the Logitech, G commercial, which didn't include Shroud, and I thought that was pretty surprising considering they've made a whole line around him. They used Little Nas X and a bunch of other cameos around him, but yeah, had some esports there. You know, some personalities involved, and that's a big deal. Like that's cool. If you're Nate Shot and you were on a Super Bowl commercial, that is pretty freaking cool. So good for them.
Does Shroud? I'm pulling up his stream right now to tell you why he was not in a commercial. Actually, I don't know. It looks like he shaved, so I literally could not watch him when he had his creepy dad goatee going.
Yeah, the Adam Sandler goatee.
Maybe when they recorded the commercial, he had the goatee, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, dude.
We're cutting that out. I'm sorry.
We can't use this. Children are literally afraid of you. We can't have you on their TV." But there you have it. There is E-News brought to you by Philly Esports. And that will do it for episode 305 of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast presented by altesports.com. Check them out. We will be back Wednesday night, normal scheduled time. Maybe talk some Katowice. Who knows? Maybe late breaking Call of Duty news right before the league starts. You never know. Maybe some bubble news. Maybe some bubble news. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. But we'll figure that out. But until then, follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Our website, tcr.gg. Our link to our Discord there. We also have a Patreon. If you ever wanted to support the show, you can do so through our Patreon. Link is on our Twitch about section, and I believe it's also in the description on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken.
And if you're looking for some betting tips and some 100% stone cold hard picks and locks for the week, come check out our YouTube channel and we will give you the details.
Yep, that will be uploaded as well. So, for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see you guys next time. Love you.